But we now want to take you back to the education crisis. And like I mentioned, Peter Ndoro, who's the Chief Executive Officer of the Kenya Private Schools Association, now joins me from our City Center studio. Thank you very much, Peter, for joining us this evening. I would like to hear from you. Will the private schools adhere to the government's directive?
Thank you very much. As Private Schools Association, we are not going to comply with the government directive to close private institutions because we have not been on strike. We do not have a labor dispute with our employees. Our schools have been running since the schools opened on the 31st of August to date, and therefore there is no reason at all for the private schools to close.
What would be the implications if indeed, the government is adamant that you must close? What implications will you be facing?
First of all, the implications are going to be dire for the private sector and the economy of this country. When the government made this decision, we hoped that the ministry will consult the private sector and make a decision that is for the best interest of this country. We were ambushed this morning through media reports that the private schools are going to be closed alongside the public sector. The government in its circular has indicated that the Class 8 and Form 4 students are going to continue with their learning. But as private sector, we are looking at the holistic education in terms of Class 1 to Class 8 and Form 1 to Form 4. What are the implications? The implications are massive because we have a different contract with the parents. We have an obligation to ensure that the children cover their 11 weeks for third term. When the ministry says that private school, that all schools are going to cover 3 weeks for their third term, we find it to be utterly irresponsible because the private schools did not in any way whatsoever engage in a strike. We have no problem. Our teachers are there. They are willing to teach. We have been going on. Security has been there. So what informed the decision by the Ministry of Education to close private schools? We haven't been told. We have not been convinced by the government at all on why private schools need to close.
Peter, you mentioned that this information you got this information in the morning, and since that time, have you been able to reach the Cabinet Secretary for Education? Have you, lodged your complaints?
We have. We tried this afternoon to reach to the Ministry of Education to secure an urgent meeting. But nobody in the Ministry of Education was willing to meet the private sector to discuss this matter and a way forward, and even inform us as to why the government was closing schools. Nobody was willing to meet us. We have been told probably we might meet them on Monday, but then that is the time when they are saying the private that schools must be closed. But we are saying we are not going to close our institutions. We are going to, should there be need, because we are consulting our members over the weekend, and should there be need, we will be moving to court Monday morning.
From where you sit, what do you think informed this decision, this drastic decision, as many private schools heads have called it? Now,
from where I sit, we don't see the reason that. I think what informed this decision it was that the fact that the government thought that the private sector will continue learning and having an advantage over public schools, which shouldn't be a problem of the government at all, because we are trying to assist the government to ensure that education does not collapse in this country. And therefore, it was our expectation that private schools would be allowed to continue teaching and children in private schools will continue learning, so that we do not have a total collapse of education. Because as things stand now, there is a total collapse of basic education in this country, which is not good for quality education that we so much espouse as private sector.
From the information you've gotten, and talking about the Class 8 students and the Form 4 students, will teachers continue teaching these classes?
For us as private sector, we will continue to teach candidate classes together with the others, because we can't have the entire teaching staff in private schools teaching only Class 8. They have to teach the entire school, because it doesn't make sense for private sector to bring all their teachers to only teach Class 8. We are going to teach the entire school, Class 1 to Class 8, Form 1 to Form 4, because for us it doesn't make sense at all to only have teachers to teach children in Form 4 or Class 8. We're going to teach the entire school.
Have you been able to speak to parents, and what is their reaction to this news?
Parents are disturbed because, for one, they expected that the contract they had with private schools to teach their children for 11 weeks is going to stand without any interruption. They have been calling us, telling us, as the government schools engage with the strike, we should be continuing teaching their children. Now, when this information comes, they're disturbed. We have been receiving calls all over the country from parents on what is the next move. And that's why we've said, because we have not been convinced by the government, we have not been consulted, we will continue to teach.
All right, so as we wind up, you say that private schools will not send their children home, they will still continue to teach?
Yes, we will continue to teach. At the moment, we have not made a decision to close private schools. We will consult our members further tomorrow and on Monday, and expect that a firm decision is going to be taken on how private schools are going to continue with their education. Because the circular that is doing the rounds, which we haven't received officially as Kenya Private Schools Association, says that third term ends on 21st, that is Monday next week. And therefore, any other information that may be coming is about first term of 2016. Parents in private schools, the private school proprietors and stakeholders in the private sector are not ready just to waste this period just because the government has a problem which is unable to sort out, and they want to bring in the private sector who have not been party to all these issues in the public sector. Right. We have not been involved. We have not been part. We have not. Our teachers are in school. They have not gone on strike. Learning is continuing. Somebody cannot just wake up one morning and say all schools need to close. We will not accept that.
All right, thank you very much, Peter Ndoro. He is the Chief Executive Officer of the Kenya Private Schools Association.